Alrighty. So have you've got everything recording? You're running on everything you want?
Everything is recording. We are all ready to go.
Wait, no, my windows are closed. Windows are closed because it's windy outside. And doors closed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Is This Thing On Podcast with myself, Michael, and my dear friend, Alysia. Alysia, how are you? I can't see you, but I'm speaking to you because the video is off to save our internet connection. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been a hot day here in Dubai. The humidity is definitely back, making quarantine a lot easier. I just want to stay inside with my AC, so we're good.
So we're fine. But has you? A couple of people have mentioned that they've come out of sort of your normal heavy lockdown. Has life changed at all despite the weather? Do you find that you're going outside a bit more freely, going to shops, doing things, or are you sort of still keeping your cautious social distance?
So I'm still doing social distancing, which is not true for like anybody else. It feels like, aside from like the people I follow on social media, but like even across the street at the cafe, it's like packed at night. Like for social media, not social media, with social distancing applied, so the tables are further apart and all that, but people are still going out. The cases have risen a little bit here, which they're saying is just due to more testing, not actually because we've come out of lockdown a little bit. But honestly, who knows?
Okay, and how much do we believe that?
I don't know.
Are you feeling skeptical?
I feel like I can't. Honestly, at this point, I don't know. I'm just going to do what I need to do, and that's stay home. And everybody else is going to do whatever they're going to do, and we're just going to have to deal with the consequences. Like, I can only preach to the few people around me and to the people I have on social media. And if they don't listen, like, realistically, we're all just going to have to figure it out. So I don't know what I believe at this point or what's real. Like, you have Elon Musk talking, you have Trump, you have then you have Dr. Fauci and so many opposing views on what's actually going on. So whether or not it's they're testing more or people are just contracting it more because social distancing or because lockdown's lifted, I don't know. You guys are coming out of lockdown, aren't you?
So so today's news, and I'm going to split it up in a bit of an interesting way. Today's news, we've got a fair amount of corona news. I know that we said we'd lean away from it, but obviously based on the time and everything sort of coming together so nicely, I thought it would be interesting to mention a couple of things. London is... The weather's been so weird. Over the last 3 days, the first 2 of the 3 were very, very hot. Beautiful, beautiful weather, clear skies, warm, went out for walks. It was great. And then today and yesterday have been miserable again. So, again, I don't mind being in. It's fine. But something very interesting has happened. So Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, came on last night, 7 p.m. local time, and gave a very strange address.
Okay.
Everyone was sort of was assuming that he was going to give this speech about how the lockdown was going to be lifted and things are going to go back to normal, because everyone, I think, frankly, is just getting very fed up. Yeah. It seems a lot like as you go outside, people are just kind of they're getting just a little bit more lenient where it counts, and they're kind of like flouting the rules. They've lost that feeling of severity.
Right.
So he announced very weirdly, in a roundabout way, that certain people in certain industries can go back to work if they must, like if they have to for their work. But otherwise, if they don't absolutely have to, then they should stay inside. So that's a bit of a yes-no.
Okay.
Then there was previously a rule where you could only go out for 1 hour a day purely for the sake of exercise, whether that's a walk or a run or something like that, or cycling. Actually, I don't even know if cycling was part of the rules, but there was these 3 very specific activities that you were allowed to do. Now, it's an unlimited amount of time per day. You can stay outside, sit in the sun, You can play sports, but only with people in your household that live with you, so that you're not like, so that you're still social distancing.
Yeah.
So again, also another yes no, and it just feels a lot like they're saying something for the sake of needing to say something because people are starting to lose their minds a
Yeah, so
bit.
it doesn't look like they're actually losing control of the country, but giving the country permission.
Whilst again, yes and no, because the sort of the responses from the public and other politicians were saying things like, "Yeah, but the people that you're saying that have to go to work are in businesses that are sort of lower income workers that have to do those jobs. They
Okay.
literally can't afford to stay home. Either that or they are sort of their work requires them physically to be there. So you're just saying that, okay, fine, if they get corona, they get corona. They can go back to work." And he's like, "Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they can go out, but they should stay at home if they absolutely don't have to go out." So it's this really weird middle limbo, and it's so strange because he's kind of doing the best he can with what he's got, because it's just such a crazy situation
Yeah.
that you, to a certain degree, you have to open up things like manufacturing, farming, construction, things like that, because life still has to go on. But at the same time, the next morning, so this was last night, so Sunday night. And this morning, there were CCTV cameras on the underground, on the metro system, and it's as if it's peak rush hour on a normal day
Oh
pre-COVID.
no.
So it's kind of like, well, you got to do what you. Where do you draw the line? Like, do you come on and just say, "Listen, everyone, go straight back in,
Well, that's
deep
that's the thing
lockdown"?
that's hard though, is because like at some point, and this is like I think we're hitting that kind of point now,
Hmm.
is eventually you're not gonna be able to give people permission. Like eventually people are just gonna start doing whatever they want simply for the fact of survival. And
Hmm.
whether or not I agree or disagree with that, I'm not living these people's lives. So I can't say that's bad of them. You need to go feed your family. You should sit at home and start. Like I can't say that. But at the same time, there should be some sort of regulations put in place for people going back, and whether that's how they regulate people getting on and off the metro, whether that's how many people can realistically be working inside of a factory, or whatever the case may be, because I feel, and this is a case we've never dealt with. We've never had a global pandemic in our generation. You know what I mean? Um, Not to
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
extent. So nobody really knows what they're doing, and everybody's winging it. And then you have people sitting on mountaintops preaching about, well, you should do this and you should do that. And realistically, nobody knows what we should be doing right now.
So on that note, nobody knows, but everyone has an opinion. So I put up on my stories, I think it was about 24 hours ago, um, between 24 36 hours ago, asking a question. There was a post by Bloomberg saying that people are still nervous about leaving lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
but they still want to open up lockdown because they know they need to get the economies back up and running. And they had a different number of sort of a different list of countries, so including countries like, if I can just read these, that looks like that's Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Spain, the UK, the US, and so sort of the average is at about 58%. So 58% of those people that want to restart the economy are also still very nervous about leaving lockdown.
Yeah.
So I put up the question, and I said, this is obviously the big debate of our time at this moment, is what do you do? Do we stay inside or do we open up the economies again? And the split of the people that I polled, I think it sort of averaged out at about 30 or 40 people. 71% still want to stay at home, still very serious about being in the lockdown. 29% said we want to open up the economy. Now, the interesting next question was that on CNN on Twitter, they released that Wuhan has reported its first new coronavirus case in more than a month. which makes everyone a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
So my next question was, if you voted to open up, to the 29% of those people that opened up, does the news of Wuhan reporting its first new coronavirus case change your opinion? And something very interesting happened. They were much more evenly split. 45% of them said, yes, it does change my opinion, and 55% of them said no. So still the majority, ever so slightly, it doesn't change their opinion that the epicenter of the outbreak, Wuhan, China, has reported its first new case.
See, and that's where, again, we don't know anything. We know nothing. And this is all that I could say. And this is the same thing I say about being vegetarian or not using plastic. Is realistically, at this point in life, all you can do is as much as you can do. If the economy opens up and your boss says you have to go to work and you need to go to work to be able to pay your bills, to feed your children, to take care of your parents,
Yep.
or whatever it is, then you go. Does that mean that you go to the bar after work? Don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you just, like, at this point, I think everybody just needs to take precautions where they can and do as much as they can. And for me, it's, I still have to go film with Spencer. That's not going to change, and I need my job. But am I going to go to the hookah bar across the street? Am I going to go work at a cafe? These are things that in my personal life I'm not going to do to limit as much as I can until we have answers. Until somebody can say with certainty that A, B, and C is going to happen if we do A, B, and C, I'm just going to do as much as I can do to make sure that I'm not spreading it in any way, shape, or form.
Which, and as you say, is precisely what the Prime Minister is sort of relying on, because his response was, I trust that the people of Great Britain will use their common sense in this time, knowing the risk of still going outside, knowing the risk of...
The problem with that is I'm so scared that nobody has common sense anymore.
Common sense is not so common, is the old adage. That's the point.
And that's what's freaky, is you have people like Elon Musk getting up there and basically saying it's all a joke.
And what's even more funny is that Elon Musk is the same person who tweeted not so long ago that if I ever behave like I'm not paying attention to the real science, then you have to hold me to account. It's a tweet somewhere, I'll find it for you. But, you know, it's kind of like, well, Elon, the science is saying don't open up, and you're shouting from the rooftops, free America. No one's not free. We're just trying to protect them.
That's the frustrating part, is you have a bunch of people who are not in positions to be saying anything on the topic, saying things about the topic, and people, because they're billionaires, and let's be honest, that's all Elon Musk is, are then going, well, Elon Musk said, who is he?
Yeah, 100%. What made Elon Musk an expert on pandemics?
Yeah, and that's where I have the issues, realistically, is that you have everybody speculating on what they think is going to happen, and if it's not your area, if you aren't an expert in that area, I need and me saying this is irrelevant, but shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth and stay the home and wait until professionals 100%. Figure this out, and then we can move forward. And then you can get out there and be like, oh, well, he said this, so y'all come back to work. Okay, cool. He said that. The scientist, there's a vaccine. You guys learned how to kill it. You figured something out. Okay, fine. But Elon Musk and even Dr. Phil and all these stupid people need to go sit down. Sorry, I got a little bit angry.
Fully agreed, and the anger is completely justified. Now, to clear the air from that anger, I'm gonna jump out of the news. So that's our little news reaction, and I thought it was just interesting that the before and after news of we want to open things up, but we're not so sure because it's not very clear that everything is going to be safe. So moving from that, because we're in lockdown all the time, and because we are not living normal lives, there are no normal routines, there's no regular way of doing things, so there's kind of no way to structure yourself from a regular routine perspective, but also from a mental perspective. Things can tend to get a little bit loose. So I want to talk about your piece of content. Um, Explain to me what on earth is a bullet journal.
Okay, so I have to give a little shout out to my friend Katya. She turned me on to it about, I want to say at this point it was like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and it seemed like a lot of work then. So
Hmm.
the procrastinate, what is he called? The procrastination who? Monkey?
Oh, the instant gratification monkey,
Yeah, that wasn't
my
there.
good friend.
Because I wasn't it just seemed like a lot of work, and you have to learn a new system or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but today I was trying to get everything in my planner, and I'm like, this isn't working. Like there's not enough information that I need there, or it's not actually. I'm not able to plan it the way I need to based on my life, right?
Hmm.
So essentially, what a bullet journal is literally just a empty notebook, and there's a system for how you're supposed to use it. There's a guy called, I think his name is Ryder. We'll link down to the original creators of the bullet journal method. Um, but it's basically just supposed to be a place where you can dump everything down, so you don't need a notebook for your thoughts and a planner for your schedule and like an app to track your let's say your mood or your water consumption or whatever. But this journal
Uh-huh.
where you can customize it in a way where you track the things that you need in your life. You know what I mean?
So let's say I've got the start out of the way.
Okay.
I've done my indexing. I figured out what's important, what I want to measure, and how I want to measure it. Describe an average day and how I would use a bullet journal.
So that's really hard because it's all the videos that I watched on this are at least like 20-minute videos. And based on
Hmm.
just one piece of the bullet journal. And that's because it really depends on what you want from it. If you just want it to be a diary, then that's just going to be about going in, looking at your task list, seeing what you check off, seeing what you finished at the end of the day and what needs to be moved over to the next day. Very, very basic. But if you're using it as kind of like a thermometer kind of for your life, like if you're taking the temperature of
Okay.
everything,
Yeah.
then a lot of people will look at it first thing in the morning and kind of fill out the things that they're tracking. So whether or not that's their mood or if it's their, let's say they have a weight goal or whatever that first
Hmm.
bit is. And then at the end of
Yep.
every day coming back to it and seeing if your goal was eating healthy and you have a little tracker for that, then did you do the eating healthy? Did you do the drinking enough water? Did you call your mom? And then you fill it out from there. The biggest part of this, it's just having all my thoughts in one place. Having a place where I can
Interesting.
put my notes for my poetry and my video ideas and my schedule and what I've completed and what I haven't completed, and that's the important part. Is you're never going to find, and it sounds like a
Uh-huh.
glorified planner, which it really is, but there's so much more than that if you make that for yourself. You know what I mean?
100%.
And so it's really just
Yeah.
about customizing that experience and what you're holding yourself accountable to each day.
Now, have you having had the instant gratification monkey problem, have you tried different types of ways of decluttering mentally like this?
Yeah. So the clearest my mind was as far as in this aspect was 1 year I used a planner and a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
The planner was perfect. It was very thin, but it had space for everything to happen. I don't know if that makes sense. So I could write down what my bills were. I could write down what my schedule was, when my paydays were, what my office schedule was, like whatever it was that I needed.
Yep.
It was efficient.
Do you think that using that product in the past, not the product, but that sort of system, do you think that helped you sort of to have the right kind of mindset going into the bullet journals?
Yeah. But okay, so even at that point in my life, I was super effective. I was working
Mm-hmm.
3 jobs. I owned a kiosk. I was doing like a little side business making jewelry
Mm-hmm.
and planning to move to Dubai. So, and this sounds so silly, and everybody has their own thing, right? For me, the planners help. But
Yep.
it was that like this piece where it just is a place where my mind goes, okay, I wrote it all down. I don't need to overthink about it. I know that it's
I'm going to ask a question that might sound quite trivial, but written, like physical writing, pen and paper, or digital lists, which is better for you?
Pen and paper.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm the same. Completely agree.
The
Now,
digital feels, it doesn't feel tangible for me. Like it.
So that's my problem is that there's any list of ways that you can do it digitally, whether you make like a notes chat on WhatsApp, whether you make you've got a Google Doc, or whether you're putting it in an email, whether you're like whatever you're doing, email drafts, whatever it is, there's almost that list can disappear. It's very easy to not look at that list again. It's less difficult. It's more difficult to ignore a paper list. Like if there's a paper list in a diary, in a notebook that you use every day, that's much harder to ignore.
Agreed.
Much more difficult. So I want to, and I'm glad this is the direction it's going in, because I want to lead it into our topic of the day. I want to talk about the idea of spring cleaning. We always do, you spring clean your house. If you do, some people do, some people don't. And then they end up on that TV show about hoarders. But if you do spring clean your house, you're getting rid of stuff that's unnecessary, clutter, things that are getting in your way, things that maybe slow you down, that make you inefficient. So I want to talk about doing that mentally, and also, weirdly enough, with your devices. I think it sounds quite niche, but I take a lot of satisfaction from decluttering my devices, laptops, phones.
Agreed.
Because there's so many little things that get in the way. Obviously, listen, you guys, you're in lockdown, so you've got the time. So don't say that you don't have the time. I think I spent probably about 4 or 5 hours a couple of weeks ago just clearing through just a bunch of old crap that I had on my laptop. My laptop, small MacBook, the 12-inch one, I love it to pieces. Sort of holding it up there for you, and it's a 500 gigabyte hard drive.
Okay.
And I only had 20 gigabytes available.
Jeez.
I now, after this decluttering, have over 250 gigabytes available.
Yes,
and that's
girl.
it's just crap. Like it's stuff that you don't need. Like it's an old third version of a graphic design for a client that got rejected. Versions 3 through 1, and version 4 was the one that they went with. Version 4, put it in a cloud link. Versions 3 through 1, delete them. And so that was my 4.5, 5 hours that I spent just trawling through all of it. And this was just on my laptop, mind you. Never mind the phone. The phone was a whole other thing.
The phone is hard. I realized having a Samsung, there's a lot of information stored that isn't easily accessible. So if you have a Samsung, I would recommend
I feel the pain.
On mine, I have one. The one that came on it is called Clean Cache.
Clean Cache. Right. Yep.
And basically, when
nice
you
American
go
pronunciation
into it, it'll show you duplicated files. It will show you just like documents. And sometimes, when you're on a website and you download a PDF and you just never look at it again. And there's just all this kind of like clutter.
100%. 100%.
And so I did that for about an hour today, which is funny that you brought that up.
Oh, really?
I did.
Excellent. Okay, good.
And
how did it go? Did you manage to get through all of it?
No.
And what was the result?
A fraction. But I probably cleared out about 8 gigabytes.
Oh, it's respectable.
And that's the same kind of thing in an hour. Where it was old client videos where they had been sent back and forth through chats or whatever. And so I just have all these like 3-4 minute videos, 45-second videos of the same video with minor changes.
Takes up so much space.
Yeah, and then easily, like
space.
just clicking on those ones, I did one sweep of like 4 GB instantly. And I was like,
Goodness.
there's just so much stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
agree in that sense of like the satisfaction behind just kind of like clearing out all the stuff, you know what I mean? That we never really pay attention to. We just upgrade our phone or upgrade our laptop, and then eventually we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%, because it just goes into the backup folder. It's like old laptop, old phone,
Yes.
old
I'll
laptop,
deal with that one day.
old
I'll
phone,
sort through that one day.
old phone 2016, old lap. Yeah, yeah, no, it's real. So yeah, that's just my little thing. That's my little thing that I take immense satisfaction from. So that's clearing out devices. But I want to talk about decluttering, like mentally decluttering, because I feel like, especially now, uh, there are plenty of things that sit at the back of our minds that for us to worry about.
Okay.
Um, whether that is whether that's finances, whether that's family, friends, whether that's work, whether that's even like personal projects, things that you want to do. And I feel like we don't. I don't know that necessarily compartmentalizes the healthy or correct way to describe what I'm saying, but I feel like we haven't got ourselves very well organized, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. From a mental perspective, and not like mental health perspective, but just in terms of like taking stock of where you are with everything. Um, and I want to put this to you: are you necessarily a very organized person mentally? You kind of know where you are with everything, um, or do you feel like you kind of need to pick things up again and kind of like reestablish what's going on every time something comes up?
So I feel like that's not a easy question, like to say yes or no to, or I am or I am not. It really depends on the
Mm-hmm.
topic. So with work, I'm pretty good at just like kind of picking up where I left off, and not needing to like, I wouldn't say like take stock of where I'm at, because I'm usually in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of the same projects. Um, and the way the information's transferred, everything's kind of in a spreadsheet for me. And so I just pick up where I left off. Uh, I will say though that this is why I decided to do the bullet journal, is I find that I'm thinking about things, whether that's for this podcast or things that I need to clean in the house, or calling my mom or calling my sister, or remembering my friend's birthday, or all these little kind of micro things that are just happening in life all the time. And then I worry myself so like sick about it, because I don't want to forget, or I want to make sure I remember, or I'm mad at myself for forgetting when it's past.
Yeah.
And I don't think we stop enough to go, okay,
So I'm
breathe.
super fortunate in that I'm quite badly organized in that sense when it comes to the non-work things.
Yeah.
I'm terribly organized. I'm not aware of like when XYZ bill is due. I'm not aware of, oh, I haven't spoken to my parents in like 6 weeks. I haven't whatever the thing is. And I'm very fortunate that I have an incredibly organized fiance, and she's super helpful. She like manages that side of my brain, because I'm hopeless. I'm absolutely hopeless, and it is certainly an endeavor that I have
Yeah.
to improve that part of my brain, because it's that kind of ability of ability, but disability in terms of like being disorganized. It seeps in to the other kind of parts of your life. So let's say you think you're super organized at work, but when you're disorganized at home, and there's certain things like mentally, there's things that you forget and you let slip. It will inherently end up affecting something else. Like, oh
Agreed.
shit, I can't go to XYZ meeting because I forgot I've got to be at XYZ thing because there's a gas leak in that. That's a bit dramatic, but one of the plugs at home won't work and there's a builder coming or something, whatever the
Yeah.
case is. Um, but I like that the bullet journal is your thing that you're talking about, because I feel like that for me could potentially be that skeleton key that like helps me to figure that part out.
And that's the thing that I've okay, this is why, and sorry, again, I'm going to say this, but why Corona's been like a blessing and a curse for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, is it's allowed me this time, right? Um,
Mm.
I'm still working just about the same hours, so I wouldn't say that it's not the work thing, but I'm not going to events. I'm not
Yep.
spending my evenings with friends or whatever. So there's just this time of kind of like quiet, right? And in
Yeah.
that quiet, it's allowed me to kind of take stock. What are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you need to improve at? And what can you do right now to do those things? I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, because everybody is dealing with this virus and these experiences completely differently. But it's allowing me to cope, and knowing that when all this does inevitably end, I want to be at least a slightly better version of myself when it's over. um, and so I think it's incredibly important to take stock of that right now, especially right now when everything's just a little bit quieter, you know?
Would you? And I completely agree. I greatly enjoy and greatly value that time to think. Like I mentioned, I think it was in episode 5.5. I spoke about the the being introspective and
Yeah.
being in your own head. And that time to me is priceless. And I think that maybe a little bit of a not a New Year's resolution, but maybe a post-COVID resolution for me would be to manage giving myself that time, so not compromising on that time.
Making that time still
So when you have
valuable.
the option to pack out your schedule and you know that for the next this coming week is going to be a doozy, like I've got so many events, I've got so many things going on, da da da, I've got to be here, I've got to be there. Actually, I'm not going to allow any of my weeks to be like that, because I value so much that evening off where I get to mentally take that break and
Yeah.
mentally declutter, because there's so much that's going on that's going to throw me off if I don't manage it.
Right. And again, which is what we all should have been doing all the time. Um,
In a perfect world, that should have been the idea.
and I think that's what a lot of people, it's helping them realize right now, is how badly, I'm gonna cuss for this one, how badly our work-life balance is. And you'll have people
Super.
say
Yeah.
that work-life balance isn't important, or you'll know where this is coming from, but um, if you love what you do, you don't need work-life balance. But the truth of the matter is
Yeah.
you need
Because
to
also
build.
the hardest workers I know, sorry to cut you
You're
off
good.
on that line, the same people that work all day every day are the same people that will say to me after a couple of days off, they're like, shit man, I needed that. Like I just needed to disconnect.
Yeah.
Like,
Or who are most
you
estranged
need to
from
then
their families or their
yeah, you need to then
relationships.
engineer a way where you don't feel like that. And like you can work just as much as you want, but you have to engineer a way where you're not feeling like that every time you come out of that like
Yeah.
deep dive into your work.
And that's what I'll say. Like, I'm just going to keep repping this bullet journal life right now. I'm so on it today. That year, I was working in total 4 jobs, right? I was working 3
Hmm.
jobs for another company, and then I opened a
What were
Christmas
those jobs?
kiosk.
Can you go into it?
My 9 to 5, my day job was working for a medical office. I was their sales
Hmm.
manager, and I
Okay.
managed a team of 4 people, 3 people. There was 4 of us total, so the 3 other people. It was a really small company. It is not now, but it was. Um, and then I worked at a shisha place. I was
Hmm.
the night manager there. And then
Hmm.
I worked at a storage facility. I was the weekend manager there. And then I opened a seasonal kiosk for Christmas ornaments, from
Respect the grind.
November to
Yep.
January.
Respect the grind. Yeah.
I was working constantly. I was
Did you find that time super rewarding or just exhausting?
I okay, the only part that I found exhausting, if I had set better boundaries at the shisha place, it would have been better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was working crazy hours for like a drunk.
Fair enough.
But because I had like this planner and I had this purpose, and for some reason I still made time to hang out with friends. I have no idea how. Like, I look back on that time, I'm like, how did I have any relationship ever? But I had organized myself so well that I was able to accomplish everything that I needed to accomplish. So like at the shisha place, I would have my friends come to the hookah bar so that I could hang out with them. And I would at the storage facility, like I could work on side things because realistically I was babysitting a desk for majority of the day, with only like a few hours actually working with clients. Mainly it was just a body in the place.
Yeah.
And so there, I just organized it so well that I was able to balance everything out. Would I do it now? No, I was younger then. I was able to like live off minimal sleep. But there's something to be said for being able to balance yourself, is if you are going to be in that place, make sure that equally you go get, for girls, you go get your nails done with your friends. Or guys, you go to the bar with your friends, or you go play pool, or whatever it is that you need to just be with other humans and not have your mind consumed with whatever work is. That helped so much for me in that year. It was just that one thing, that one evening, that whatever it was, that took all the pressure off for a second and just let you kind of hit the refresh button.
And it's I love it because there was a time for me where I think I was doing 3 jobs. I had just come off the back of a full-time job. I was working 3 jobs, doing 3 different things, three distinctly different things. And I was working from 7 in the morning until probably 10 p.m., 11 p.m.
Wow, okay.
Nearly 6 or 7 days a week. And at the time, I took so much pride in the fact that I was doing that because I loved, well, no one loves working themselves to the bone, but I took pride in the fact that I needed to do that much work, and I was doing it.
Yeah.
Oddly, I've reached a place now where I take pride in having the headspace.
Yeah.
And I take pride in having, not that it's by any design of mine, it's thank you to coronavirus, but that's now what I value.
That was really
that
well worded.
Now.
I would agree with that so much. That was really well worded.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My ego is eternally grateful. So I think it's where I'm going with it is kind of that mental decluttering, and that mental decluttering, although in itself in isolation seems like a great idea, you have to facilitate it and you have to set it up, and to do that you have to manage your life and your time to make sure that you give yourself the opportunity to do it.
And I'll say this, if that moment, even if the time for yourself to think or whatever is in the back of a taxi, is on your way somewhere, just whatever,
on a commute,
but
or
consciously
100%.
give it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, actually decide that. Like, okay, the time I'm going to, for me, it's going to be about fitting in when I'm going to make this dang bullet journal when the world starts operating again. But about making that a conscious decision. Like, this is the time I set aside for that. This is the moment. And even if it is in a commute or on a metro or on a bus or in the shower, honestly, like, I don't care. But just making that a moment for you. Where you assess things, but making it conscious. And I think that's the part that we're missing, is it, just like you just said, is making sure that you're making the space, but also that that's your intention, is you can have it and do it, and even in constrained times, but you have to make sure that you're putting the energy into it.
100% agree. I couldn't have said it better. 100%.
I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, thank you for coming to our TED Talk. So yeah, that's kind of all I really wanted to cover with this
Yeah.
this topic. I think we have very much hit the nail on the head. I'm certainly going to check out the bullet journaling
What
because
I'm
it sounds
curious about
interesting.
is for the four of you who watch this, what is
Hey
it that
guys.
you do? Hi guys, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. What is it that you do that you like allow space for yourself that keeps you sane? So I know one person who will watch this is in school. Like, how do you balance school, work, your relationship, and all this, and what gives you your sanity? Because for me, I know that it's planning, it's keeping my schedule. For Michael, it's making sure he has space to have his like thoughts and his thinking time and his headspace.
Not that anything ever comes of it. Let's just be clear.
But
It's
what
a
is
vast
it? What is it for
it's
you
a vast
guys?
gap of nothingness.
Like, what is it that what's that thing that keeps you sane? Is it going to the bar with your friends? You just need to like let off the steam and then you're good, or what is that? Because I know that it varies so much for everybody and what their thing is.
I would love to make a mini series about this. I would love for anyone who's watching this, tell us what your things are. And this will be like a little mini series about
Send us a video of what your things are.
who does what. Yeah. Yeah, do it. I dare you.
We get 2 video submissions. We get like no. Imagine we get. I'm gonna cut this out. Maybe we'll see. Imagine we get like 10,000.
The video submissions we're gonna get is ours.
But like in 2 years.
Public, yeah, I'm down.
Like nobody sees
perfect.
this episode
Documentary, like,
until
amazing.
like 2 years from now, and they're like, "Oh, I want this is what I," and you're like, "What?" Like we'll be.
Yeah,
we'll
I
be
just
the
got.
Money Heist
I
of
jump in my flying
podcasts.
car and goes. Yeah.
Okay, you want to outro
And
us, Michael?
Yeah, until 2 years from now. Thank you for watching. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please by all means hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications, so that you know when we are dropping. It is every Tuesday, every Friday. Is that right? That's right, isn't it?
Tuesday and Friday, yeah.
Tuesdays and Friday? Yeah, cool. So I know what I'm talking about. And if you're listening on any of the audio platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, I was reminded recently that, of course, we are on Google Podcasts as well. And there was another one as well, with plenty of podcast platforms. So leave us ratings, reviews, comments. We would love to hear from you. And, of course, it would help us to get the podcast to other people. In the way of support, we are on Patreon, so you can support us to make better content more often. And, of course, you can also just buy us a coffee, which is greatly appreciated. Our caffeine addictions will be very grateful. And from me, that is all for episode 9 of Is This Thing On Podcast. Thank you so much for watching, Alysia.
Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. Hit the like button, share this with your friends, and then tune in for the next episode.
Okay, I hit record again. We're back.
Okay, are you recording your audio still?
Hi, Alysia. Yes.
Hi,
yeah, I am.
Michael.
No, I was saying that to future you who's going to listen back to this. I wasn't talking to you. Done. Sorry, Alysia. She's very rude. She interrupts all the time.
She does.
She does.